As 2025 draws to a close, Washington is gripped by a fierce and unprecedented showdown between the judiciary and the Trump administration, a conflict that has sent shockwaves through every branch of government and captured the attention of the nation. At the heart of this escalating crisis is a federal judge's criminal contempt investigation into top administration officials who stand accused of openly defying a direct court order, an act that many see as a brazen challenge to the rule of law. The administration, for its part, claims the judiciary has overstepped its bounds, accusing the courts of interfering with executive authority and national security decisions. This has ignited a rare and volatile standoff over the true limits of presidential power in America. The dispute centers on the controversial deportation of more than 130 Venezuelan nationals, whom the administration has labeled as dangerous and sent to a high-security Salvadoran prison, despite a judge's explicit order to halt the flights. The move has sparked outrage among human rights advocates and legal scholars alike. This alleged defiance has triggered a sprawling legal war, now drawing in a courageous whistleblower, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and a deeply divided Congress, each grappling with the implications for the balance of power. The stakes could not be higher. Can a president operate above the law even when invoking national security? Or does the Constitution demand that no one, not even the commander-in-chief, is immune from judicial oversight? Judge James Boasberg is pressing forward, determined to seek answers and accountability, while the Department of Justice pushes back forcefully, accusing him of bias and overreach, and warning of dangerous precedents. The case is now frozen by a higher court, leaving the nation in suspense as legal teams prepare for a historic battle that could reshape the separation of powers. The outcome will define the boundaries of presidential authority and judicial oversight for years, perhaps generations to come, setting a precedent for future administrations. Will the courts hold the executive branch accountable, or will presidential power prevail in the face of judicial resistance? The answer could alter the very fabric of American governance. The answer will shape the future of American democracy, testing the resilience of its institutions and the faith of its people in the rule of law. The country waits on edge for a resolution, uncertain, anxious, and aware that history is being written in real time. The crisis erupted in March 2025, sending shockwaves through the nation and dominating headlines across every major news outlet. In a move that stunned legal experts and human rights advocates alike, the Trump administration secretly deported over 130 Venezuelan men, claiming they were dangerous gang members and a threat to national security. Relying on the rarely invoked Alien Enemies Act, a law dating back to the 18th century, the administration bypassed normal procedures and sent the men not to Venezuela but to a notorious Salvadoran prison infamous for its harsh conditions. Alarmed by the sudden deportations, lawyers for the men sprang into action, racing to federal court. They argued the deportations were not only illegal, but also put their clients at grave risk of torture and abuse in a foreign prison. Judge James Boasberg, recognizing the extraordinary urgency, convened emergency hearings in the middle of the night, even as the flights carrying the men were already in the air. Upon learning that the planes had already departed U.S. airspace, Judge Boasberg issued an emergency order, demanding that the deportations be halted immediately, and the men returned to American soil. The order was unambiguous, a direct and forceful command to the executive branch, leaving no room for interpretation or delay. Its purpose was clear: to preserve the authority of the court and prevent the men from vanishing into foreign custody before their cases could be heard. The administration's response to this unprecedented order would ignite a fierce constitutional battle, drawing the eyes of the nation and the world. By refusing to stop the flights, the executive branch openly defied the judiciary, setting the stage for a dramatic criminal contempt inquiry. This was no routine legal dispute. It was a direct test of whether the courts could enforce their will against the highest levels of government, even in the face of open resistance. The confrontation quickly spiraled into a national crisis, with the rule of law and the balance of power hanging in the balance. The very foundation of American democracy, the rule of law itself, was now on trial before the nation. The stakes could not be higher, as the outcome would shape the future of constitutional authority in America. After Judge Boasberg's order, the administration pressed on, refusing to back down despite mounting legal pressure and public scrutiny. Over the following days, 3 flights landed in El Salvador, the deportees handed over in full view of the media, their faces broadcast across international news. The judge's command had been ignored, and the spectacle signaled open defiance. Officials dodged questions, while protesters gathered outside, demanding answers. Reports soon emerged of torture and abuse in Salvadoran custody, intensifying the crisis and drawing condemnation from human rights groups worldwide. By April, Judge Boasberg declared probable cause for criminal contempt, launching an inquiry into who was responsible for defying the court's authority. The administration appealed, and the investigation was paused by a higher court, leaving families and advocates in limbo. In a twist, the deported men were later released in a U.S. brokered prisoner swap. But the legal battle raged on, with both sides refusing to yield. In November, the inquiry was allowed to resume, only to be halted again by another court order in December, prolonging the uncertainty. The back and forth has left the core question unresolved. Did the administration break the law, or simply test its limits? The legal roller coaster continues, with the nation's balance of power and the rule of law hanging in the balance, watched closely by the world. Each court decision has only deepened the uncertainty, fueling debate and anxiety across the country. The stakes have grown with every twist, as the outcome could reshape the boundaries of executive power for years to come. The outcome will set a precedent for executive accountability and determine how far a government can go in the face of judicial orders. The fight is far from over, and the nation waits for answers as the next chapter unfolds. At the center is Judge James Boasberg, determined to defend judicial authority. Opposing him, President Trump, who authorized the deportations and publicly attacked the judge. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who gave the final go-ahead for the flights, is a key witness. Attorney General Pam Bondi leads the DOJ's aggressive defense, while former DOJ lawyer Erez Ruveni, fired and now a whistleblower, claims officials encouraged defiance. Emil Bove, now a federal judge, is accused of urging the administration to ignore court orders. Chief Justice John Roberts intervened, defending judicial independence and warning against political attacks on the courts. The conflict has drawn in Congress, the Supreme Court, and the highest levels of the executive branch. The drama is no longer just legal, it's a national debate over the separation of powers. The outcome will define the roles of all 3 branches for years to come. The legal fight boils down to 2 stark views. Judge Boasberg and the deportees' lawyers say the administration willfully violated a clear court order, an act of criminal contempt. They argue the judiciary's authority is meaningless if the executive can ignore its rulings. The DOJ counters that the judge's order was unclear, and by the time it was written, the planes were out of U.S. jurisdiction. They accuse Boasberg of bias and claim the inquiry is a political vendetta. The DOJ warns that forcing officials to testify would breach executive privilege and disrupt the separation of powers. At stake, whether courts can hold the executive accountable, or if presidential power can override judicial authority. The answer will set a lasting precedent. The case took a dramatic turn when whistleblower Erez Ruveni, a fired DOJ lawyer, alleged the administration's defiance was deliberate. He claimed top officials, including Emil Bove, encouraged ignoring court orders they saw as improper. Ruveni's testimony suggested a culture of hostility toward judicial oversight within the DOJ. Judge Boasberg moved to have Ruveni testify under oath, escalating the confrontation. The DOJ fought back, arguing his testimony would violate government privilege. The whistleblower's claims deepened the rift inside the Justice Department and raised the stakes of the inquiry. The courtroom battle exploded into a national controversy when President Trump called for Judge Boasberg's impeachment. Supporters accused the judge of partisanship, while Chief Justice Roberts issued a rare public defense of judicial independence. The conflict spread to Congress, with Republican senators attacking Boasberg after revelations he'd authorized subpoenas for their phone records. The judiciary now faced opposition from both the executive and legislative branches. The public watch, as headlines chronicled the defied order, whistleblower allegations, and political attacks. The spectacle fueled fears that America's core institutions were breaking down. The standoff became a symbol of a nation divided over the rule of law. The principle that no one is above the law was now openly contested. As of December 24, 2025, the contempt proceedings are frozen by a higher court. The D.C. Circuit is weighing whether to end the inquiry and remove Judge Boasberg from the case. If the court sides with the administration, the investigation ends, setting a precedent that limits judicial power over the executive. If Boasberg prevails, hearings will proceed with top officials called to testify under oath. The outcome will define the balance of power between the courts and the presidency. Washington waits for the appellate judge's decision. The stakes, accountability at the highest levels of government. The future of the separation of powers hangs in the balance. The nation holds its breath. The fate of this constitutional confrontation is about to be decided.